being here. We were very fortunate to be selected for this, and very happy to have you here today. I'm Patrick Bolton. I'm the band director here at Christian Brothers High School. You may see Mr. Stephen Womack. He's assistant band director. And with us today, gentlemen in the room, are trombone players, baritone players, tuba players, and of all levels. Some beginner guys just getting started. Some guys very experienced. So we have a wide variety of guys here today. And everybody, this is Chris Clark. He's the trombone player for the President's Own Marine Corps Band. Let's give him a round of applause.
Yeah, close.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
For being here today. I guess we can, if you have any agenda items you'd like to hit, or introduce yourself and all that good stuff.
Yeah, I'd love to. We don't have a full hour, do we?
No, about 30 minutes.
Okay, cool. I had thought I might play just a little bit. Do you all mind if I do a little playing to start?
Oh, we'd love that.
I have something really short. I've just been like a lot of you trying to figure out what to practice for the past 6 weeks. Since all my playing has pretty much been canceled. So I've been working on some new etudes I found by a guy named Jim Stevenson. And these are trumpet etudes Jim wrote a few years ago, and he just transcribed them for trombone and tuba. I think they're kind of cool. So I thought I'd just play one. They're kind of fun, something new that probably you haven't heard. So I'm going to play one here for a second, and then I'll come back and we can chat.
Okay, sounds good.
Cool.
Sounds good.
Be able to hear me. Okay. Hey, give me a thumbs up if you can still hear me. Okay. Okay, great.
It's very quiet.
Unmute my one mic, unmute my other one now. So Thank you all. It's always kind of weird. It's kind of weird playing for people on these calls, because it is just like you're playing alone to yourself in your room. And then you look up and there are these people looking back at you on your computer. It's a little creepy, but that's all right.
That's the way it works these days, huh? Well, thanks for being here. I guess would you mind telling us a little bit about yourself, how you got to where you are today?
Yeah, sure. So I'm rapidly becoming one of the more senior people in the Marine Band. I've been in the band for a little over 20 years. Joined in August of 1999. I grew up in a very small town in East Texas called Commerce, Texas. It's about 8,000 people, about an hour or so northeast of Dallas. I did my undergrad at the Curtis Institute in Philadelphia. And then after Curtis, I went to Juilliard and did my master's there in New York and studied with Joe Alessi. I studied with the former principal trombone in Philadelphia, Glenn Dodson, when I was at Curtis. Spent a couple years in New York after school freelancing, and then joined the Marine Band in 1999. I finally won an audition. I'd taken about 6, I think, service band auditions before I won the Marine Band audition that brought me to DC. So that's the short story. And just been working in the band for the last 20 years, doing a lot of playing and a lot of stuff around DC, a lot of tours around the U.S. Got to go to Japan last May, which was awesome. So that's kind of the short story.
Yeah, great. Does anybody have any questions right now that anyone might want to ask?
And I got one.
Go ahead.
Just like, I'm kind of curious, like, who would you say, like, probably, like, if out of everybody you've heard play just over the years, like, who's had the most impact as a player for you to look up to?
Sure.
Like,
well, I think for a lot of people, I don't think I'm any exception. My earliest influences probably made the biggest impact on me. I studied with in high school. I studied with a guy named Neil Humfeld, and Neil passed away many years ago. But he was a Emory Remington student at Eastman back in the 1950s.
Not to interrupt you for 1 second. He performed with the Christian Brothers Band.
Oh, really?
Yeah, he was one of our guest soloists back in maybe the 70s, I believe. Yeah.
Oh, wow. It's funny you say that. This is a bit of an aside, but I've been transferring all these tapes of his from reel to reel onto the computer, and I could swear I saw a tape with Christian Brothers' name on it.
Yeah.
I don't remember transferring it, but I'm going to have to look through my collection and see, because now it's all kind of ringing a bell to me. That's interesting. Because the first trombone workshop was in Nashville back in 1972, I think. The first international trombone workshop. Yeah,
I think he was. I can tell you what year he soloed with us. I've got it written down here.
That's really cool.
Go ahead. I'll look it up and I'll let you know.
But so my dad is also a trombone player, and he was not playing a lot when I got into high school, and he started playing a lot about my freshman year of high school, and but I studied with Neil, and so Neil was a big influence on me. Sound concept, all those kind of things, and left a really big impression on me. I mean, all my major teachers have left a very big influence on me. Glenn Dodson did, Joe Alessi. I studied with a tuba player in Baltimore named Dave Federley for a number of years here in DC. And then my dad as well, although I never formally studied with him. I've played for him a lot and had a lot of mini lessons, when I was younger. So that was cool. What else could I answer for you guys?
He soloed with us in 1970.
1970. Do you know what piece he played? Does it say?
I can look it up. I've got it.
That's really cool.
I can look it up real quick.
It's really unusual to find any organizations that are older than the Marine Band, but I saw that your school it's
1872.
Oh, 1872. All right, we got you by about 80 years, but
yes, you do.
That's still a pretty old high school.
Yeah,
that's cool.
Y'all still beat us, but we can say we're the oldest high school band.
Yeah, that's pretty amazing. That's very cool. Where are you guys located? Where in Tennessee?
Memphis.
In Memphis area. Okay, gotcha.
Yeah,
awesome.
We started up because of a lot of the musicians started moving here in the late 1800s because we had one of the very first musicians union here in Memphis. So
interesting.
German immigrants come in and for especially those guys playing on riverboats and things like that.
Yeah.
So that's kind of how we had a lot of musicians here in town early on.
That's awesome.
What would you say is like the most important basic for like a trombone beginner to like nail down?
Tone and time, rhythm. When we have Marine Band auditions, the number one thing people cannot do is play in time, in rhythm. Sound is a very subjective thing, and it depends a lot on how you as a player want to sound. It depends on what you hear in your head. So when you asked me earlier who my biggest influences are, every time I pick up my trombone, I hear those sounds in my head that I learned when I was your age. And, you never get away from that impression that people leave on you, especially people that you hear a lot. And, my teachers, for the most part, played a lot for me in lessons. So I have that experience. I think rhythm is one of the things that's the most difficult for people to grasp. And, I still have to work on it. And it really comes down to subdividing in your inside, in your mind, in your body while you're playing, that you're thinking in eighth notes or whatever the subdivision may be. That's the key. And, I'll admit I didn't learn that till I was in my late 20s, early 30s, that I feel like I got really good at it. And I still have to work at it. It's hard. But that's the number one thing. So doing long tones to develop your sound, I was practicing here at home earlier today, and I did long tones, because that's the number one thing I have to maintain to be able to do anything that I do.
To work on your timing, do you play a lot with metronome?
Not very much, I'll admit. I used to, of course. I used to play a lot, and I think metronomes are valuable if the player learns to count on their own. Unfortunately, a lot of times we all turn on the metronome and we sort of allow the metronome to lead us. We allow the metronome to be our guide, and then we turn the metronome off and that guide goes away and we're all lost again.
Yeah.
So until you can internalize that beat with the metronome and learn to subdivide, it doesn't do as much good as I think people would like for it to. So I encourage you, of course, to practice with a metronome, but I also encourage you to actively subdivide along with that metronome in your head so that when you turn it off, you can still play in time. That's the goal.
Good. Just to answer your question, Adagio from the Concerto for Cello by Haydn and Bluebells of Scotland, prior version. Those are the two pieces he played with us. And if you wanted to go to our website, you can download them. They're on our website.
Oh, okay. Oh my gosh, I will. That's amazing.
CBHSband.org. If you go to the Bandcamp and just go to 1970, it'll be there.
Okay. I will totally do that. That's blowing my mind right now to get to hear that.
CBHS Band, Christian Brothers High School Band, CBHSband.org. Yeah.
Okay. Thank you. I will check that out later. What else can I talk about with you guys?
Could you talk to us about being in the President's Own Marine Band? Some of these guys maybe not know exactly what y'all's mission is, and
sure,
talking about the President's Own, what does that mean, and what do you do?
Yeah. So the President's Own, we got our name from basically from our association with the White House and the presidency of Thomas Jefferson. Jefferson was a violinist, and the band started playing in the White House under John Adams, but it was really under Jefferson that they found a common use for the band, and so we started playing a lot. That's one of mine. Started playing a lot under Jefferson, and he's the one that gave the band the nickname the President's Own. So what it is evolved into is our primary mission is still to provide music for the White House. But we also do a lot of ceremonies in the Washington area. We do all the Marine Corps officers and any killed in action funerals at Arlington Cemetery. We do all of those funerals. We do a lot of other just state arrivals and ceremonies around the DC area. So it's a wide variety of things. We do a lot of concerts. We go on tour every year for a month. When I first got in the band, we'd go on tour for 7 weeks, and we played a concert every day. And that was my first 3 months in the band. We went on a tour to the West Coast and played. I think I played 45 concerts in 50 days or something like that. But that's primarily what we do. We play concerts, we serve the public, we serve the Marine Corps, and we're available at any time to play any kind of music we're asked to play at the White House. That's kind of our main gig, is doing that. So we'll send concert bands over to the White House. We have a really fine chamber orchestra that goes. We send dance band, big band to you guys. We call it a dance band because it's a smaller section of horns. We have a rock band. It used to be a country western group only, and now they do everything from Chicago, Blood, Sweat, and Tears. They do some country. They do a lot of, Bruno Mars. They do that kind of stuff. So they have a horn section, rhythm section, a couple vocalists. They do a lot of stuff as well. We have 2 vocalists in the band that both sing classical and jazz. 3 pianists that all do different things. So we have a wide variety of ensembles we can put together.
Awesome. If any of these gentlemen here are interested in entering into a military band, what would they have to do?
So all the DC bands for all the services are audition only bands. If you want to enter the Marine Band, when we have an opening, we post an audition time, and we hold open auditions, meaning anyone that qualifies to enlist in the Marine Corps. So you have to be old enough, for one thing. You have to be a U.S. Actually, I don't know that you have to be a U.S. citizen when you enlist, but you can come to DC and play a live audition. Some of the other bands do taped screening, audition recordings before they invite people, but we invite anyone that wants to come. So when we have an audition, we'll hold that audition, and if you come and win the audition, then you go enlist in the Marine Corps. If you're looking at joining a fleet Marine band, of which there are now, I believe there are 10 in the Marine Corps, and so these bands are based various places around the world. There's a band in Okinawa, Japan. There's a band in Camp Pendleton in California. There's a band in New Orleans, Reserve Forces band that are all active duty Marines. There's a band in Paris Island, band in San Diego. There's various places around the Marine Corps. And those bands are smaller than us. They're generally, we have about 160 people in our organization. Those bands have around 55 to 60 people, and they do a lot of smaller ceremonies and things on the bases. They do concerts as well, but they also have a lot of extra duties that any other Marine would have. They're infantry trained. We are not. And a lot of those Marines have other specialties that they do. Some of them become drum majors. I've known some that have gone on to be drill instructors in the Marine Corps, recruiters. They can do all kinds of different things if needed. So those bands you can join out of high school, and those you would see your Marine recruiter, and recruiter comes to the school, and they have people that go around and audition you, and you go to basic training. Then you go to the Armed Forces School of Music in Virginia Beach, and they have about a 3 or 4 month program, I think, now, and it's good. They do a lot of lessons as well as theory, arranging. They've got some cool stuff that you get to do through that program, but it's a very different path than what most of us have done to get in the President's Zone.
Right, which is an audition base. You don't have to go through basic training and things of that nature.
That's correct. I did not go to basic training. So I was a starving musician in New York City, and I auditioned for the band and pretty much enlisted in the Marine Corps once I got through all the enlistment process. And then I had a week, I think, to report to DC, and then I did my training with the drum major of the Marine Band at the time. And that's how we get trained. Of course, we don't go to the School of Music. We're already expected to be able to play at the level we need to play to do the job we're hired to do.
Gotcha.
Oh.
Any questions, guys? From any trombone questions or anything?
How did you decide that you want to play trombone for a living?
Well, I knew my dad had been a trombone player, so I guess I was kind of attracted to it because of that. The real thing that attracted me was when I was in 5th grade, the middle school band director came to my music class and played the different instruments for us so we could hear them. And he could make a sound on his trombone like a diesel truck changing gears. And I thought that was really cool. So I knew I wanted to do that. So that's the real reason I chose the trombone.
Well, did you figure out how to do that? Can we hear you play that?
Oh, yeah, I'm not very, I can do it. I'm not very good at it. He was actually really good at doing that. It sounded really cool. I should, though. That'd be a good recruiting tool.
Yeah, it worked for you. Anybody else? Any other questions?
About did I interrupt somebody? I don't know.
Go ahead, Nikolai. What do you want? You go.
About how much on average when you were younger did you play the trombone, like hours a week, and how many do you practice now?
So when I was in, I got kind of serious about it my freshman year of high school. I'd say fall of my freshman year, and I started practicing. I'd practice anywhere from an hour to 2 hours a day, based on kind of the time I had. I was in a high school that, probably like you guys, it had an active marching band. So during marching season, I had a lot of practice time for that. So I would kind of play as much as I could, when I got it, I think when I was a senior in high school, I had a free period. So I always practiced on my free period every day too. Of course, by that time I was really trying to get into college doing it, and needed the time to practice. So, I'd say 1.5 to 2 hours in high school. Through college, I'd practice 3 or 4 hours a day. And, I think one of the things to think about with practicing, it's not always the time amount, it's the quality that you put in. And, if you can concentrate and really focus, and you're practicing, you're going to get a lot more out of it without spending so much time. As brass players, there comes a point where all you're doing is making yourself tired, and you have to really concentrate on quality practicing. And so these days when I practice, I have 2 young children. Right now, of course, we're homeschooling them, which is not something we normally do. So my life has changed, just like yours, changed a lot in the past month and a half. So I may practice an hour a day. I might get an hour and a half in, but the big thing I do is that I break it up into smaller segments. So I have a kitchen timer here in my office, and I'll set this for 25 minutes, maybe 30, but usually 25, and get away from my computer, put my phone away, and practice with this thing. And once it goes off, then I take a break. And I may take a break for 10 minutes and come back and do another 25, or I may come back later in the day and do some more. So a lot of it just depends on what kind of time I have. But for me, it keeps me from getting bored, and sometimes you get on a roll when you're practicing, and it's fun and you just want to keep doing it. Other times it's drudgery and I don't want to pick up my horn and I have to make myself, but 25 minutes is pretty low stress to do that. If I tell you, hey, you need to go practice for an hour, you're going to be like, oh man, an hour is forever. But if I say, hey, go do 25 minutes. All right.
That seems real.
Yeah, it's a lot easier. And you do 25 minutes 3 times in a day, and before you know it, you've done almost an hour and a half. And if that's really concentrated and you've focused, you're going to really improve a lot doing that. So that's been a kind of a revelation for me as I've gotten older. So especially with all the distractions around, I've got my computer here. I record down here. I do a lot of recording work too, both outside of the Marine Band. But I record myself here at home. I've been recording quartets over the past few weeks just for fun. That's what I was doing earlier today. I had a I had a corral on my stand. I was just recording the 4 different parts and for fun. Something different.
Well, our boys, they have a practice log. Though sometimes, they don't like filling out the practice log and turning them in, but they try to get about 20 minutes, 30 minutes a day. It's kind of our goal as well. So that's
awesome.
kind of the same type of idea in tracking it and making sure that your practice is well focused and you're not wasting time.
30 minutes a day is way better than 3 hours twice a week. It's that daily familiarity, daily practice, and that's what builds up your chops and your abilities, for sure. That's my biggest fear during this whole, other than getting sick or having someone in my family get sick. My biggest thing is like, I don't want to come back 3 months from now or 2 months from now, or whenever we start getting together and playing again. I don't want to come back and be totally out of shape, and have to struggle through playing in the band. It's a big challenge.
Well, we only have about maybe 5 minutes left. What about maybe Mr. Diaz or Shearson or Mr. Duke? Would you guys care maybe to play a lick or two, or maybe Mr. Kroom? Or are you too scared?
I think
I'm a little nervous.
I can't reach you through the computer, so
Ryan, go ahead and play for us.
I think I got it.
All right, Ryan.
Awesome.
Ryan's going to play a little bit, and maybe you can critique a little. Just a short snippet. We don't have a lot of time, okay?
Yeah, that'd be great.
Yay.
Awesome. Nice job. Nice job.
Thank you, sir.
So, hey, one thing I would say, and this goes for all of us, is you're doing a lot of things really well. That's great. And David is a great solo to work on for these things. One thing I hear quite a lot in your playing is I hear the slide getting to the position either too early or a little late. So it's a timing thing. So especially, hopefully you can hear this. So a lot of times that you get this. I'm exaggerating it so you can hear it through the computer, but you get a lot of gliss in there. So you have to think about moving the slide late and quick. It doesn't have to be fast, but it just needs to be quick enough. And if you wait until kind of the last second to move your slide, it tends to clean up that glissing. And this is where recording yourself can really come in. So as you practice this, clearly you've played it and you know it well, which is great. So record yourself and listen back. This is one thing I've hoped that having us all playing and going through Zoom and Microsoft Teams and stuff will help, is that we'll hear ourselves recorded more. And sometimes we hear ourselves on the recording and we're like, oh, I didn't know I was doing that.
Yeah.
So listen for those things, but that'll clean up a lot of the space between the notes, as one of my teachers used to say. Nice job.
Thank you. Great.
Very well done.
Well, would you go ahead?
I have one of our baritone players. He had to leave to go to AP Euro, but he wanted me to ask you, do you recommend any method books or A2 books for double tonguing?
Yeah, so I have a kind of a really boring way to work on double tonguing that I think works really great, and I actually made a YouTube video about it years ago. It's still out there. But I do just a very boring, basic exercise with double tonguing. So one of the things with double tonguing we have to do is to be able to make it sound easy, which is hard. But I take one note and I'll just double tongue on one note until my tongue gets tired. I should say I do it until I run out of air on each note. It's really boring. I'm not going to lie to you and tell you it's exciting, but it's very effective. And the other point is to do it slow. And so for a lot of us, we're learning a new muscular movement when we double tongue. So getting it to sound natural is really hard. But if you start out slow, it sounds kind of its worst. So I know if I can double tongue slow and make it clear, then when I speed it up, it's much easier. So, I have to maintain that too. It's not something that you learn and then you can do forever. So especially your euphonium players, then you start incorporating it on scales, maybe two notes, taka, 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 different patterns, really whatever you can do. So I used to do that when I came to audition for the Marine Band. I was not good at double tonguing, and I knew I had to get a lot better real fast. And so I would turn on the TV. Band directors are going to be like, oh no, I can't believe you said this. Turn on the TV, put in my practice mute sometimes or not, and just do that exercise for like 30 minutes until my tongue was so tired I couldn't tongue anymore. But that's how I learned to double tongue, and it's still something I have to maintain, especially if there's any movement involved on trombone. It takes a lot of slow practice. I don't know. Right. Hopefully that helps.
Well, I think Mr. Womack, I think we're out of time. Is there any other last minute questions, guys? Well, thank you very much, Mr. Clark, for being here today, and we got a lot out of that. I got a lot out of that. Mr. Womack, trombone player.
Yes.
Thanks.
Yeah.
It's nice to meet you all.
Let's give a round of applause, everybody. Thank you very much.
Hey.
And you've got my email, so if you have any problem accessing the Neil Humfeld recordings, let me know. And
thank you.
We're happy to send you in the right place. And
appreciate that. Great to.
We're going to try our best to catch you next time the band's coming through, which I think from what I hear, they're coming through Tennessee at some point.
Well, we should be coming through this fall. We'll see what happens. But
okay.
This is Tennessee's usually on our we call it the Texas tour because so much of this tour is in Texas. I probably won't be on that, but our principal trombone player, Sam Barlow, is from, he went to Austin P. I can't remember his hometown, but he's from Tennessee. So he'll be on the tour. He's great.
Great.
Yeah. Great. But nice to meet you all.
Nice to meet you too. Good luck and stay healthy.
Thank you. Y'all too. We'll see you.
All right. Thank you very much.
Bye.
All right, boys, don't sign.